Look at this landscape, a single river cutting across an arid plain, feeding an oasis ecosystem. In the ancient Near Eastern context, this represents the ultimate picture of survival and abundance. It is the geographic setting for the Garden of Eden. Within this sanctuary of divine provision, Adam and Eve exist in a state of absolute security. Their needs are met entirely, and their relationship with their Creator is defined by unfiltered trust. The dense calligraphy of this ancient Torah scroll preserves this behavioral baseline. Genesis 2:25 records that the man and his wife were both naked and felt zero shame. They were entirely exposed to the world and to each other, yet experienced no self-consciousness. We must establish this state of fearless vulnerability first. Without recognizing how complete their initial peace was, the catastrophic psychological shift of the ensuing tragedy cannot be fully measured. The disruption of this peace begins with the serpent. The text avoids describing a monster, using the Hebrew word arum, defining the creature specifically as cunning. The serpent relies on a psychological tactic rather than force. It manipulates language to plant doubt about the Creator's commands, subtly shifting the foundation of human trust. You can track the cognitive shift in Eve as she evaluates the tree. She reclassifies it from a forbidden hazard into a desirable tool, a means to gain independent wisdom and autonomy. This temptation centers on an intellectual desire. It is the ambition to define reality and morality on one's own terms, independent of the Creator. Eve takes the fruit and eats. Adam, standing there with her, follows suit. Together, they cross the ultimate boundary. The immediate result is paradoxical. Their eyes were opened as promised, but they aren't met with divine enlightenment. Instead, they face a crushing awareness of their own exposure and inadequacy. This new state of self-consciousness violently shattered their previous innocence. The baseline of absolute security they enjoyed just moments before is gone. The fig leaves they sew together represent humanity's very first psychological defense mechanism. They are building walls to hide their newly discovered flaws from one another. The advent of shame serves as the definitive symptom of a broken relationship. They are now alienated from their own bodies and from the divine. The climax begins with a chilling detail: the sound of God walking in the garden in the breeze of the day. This sound triggers absolute terror, driving the man and woman to hide among the trees. Look closely at the ancient, jagged parchment of this fragment. It records God's piercing question: "Where are you?" This question functions as a deliberate opening for human confession. Adam instantly chooses self-preservation. He breaks solidarity with his wife, blaming Eve, while subtly implicating God. Eve mirrors this reaction. She deflects the blame onto the serpent's deception, prioritizing her own defense over accountability. The ultimate tragedy of this trial is the total annihilation of human unity. Fear and self-interest have replaced the trust that once defined their existence. The verdict introduces immediate relational consequences. Childbirth becomes agonizing, and the relationship between men and women is now marked by fraught competitive power dynamics. The curse extends to the environment. The ground is weaponized with thorns and thistles, transforming survival into a brutal struggle of endless sweat and labor. Finally, humanity receives the ultimate biological penalty: the loss of eternal life. It is encapsulated in the promise, "Dust you are, and to dust you shall return." These decrees represent the systemic collapse that occurs when humanity disconnects from the source of its life. Amidst the judgment, the text pauses for a detail of grace. God makes garments of skin for Adam and Eve, demonstrating persistent divine care even as they are sent away. Then comes the final eviction. Humanity is sent out to work the untamed earth. This monumental gate represents the threshold they crossed, leaving the sacred sanctuary for a world of exile. To prevent their return, a terrifying boundary is established. God stations the cherubim and a constantly turning, flaming sword to guard the tree of life. This narrative leaves us with the enduring image of a lost paradise. It frames human history as a perpetual struggle, a constant underlying effort to return to a sense of home and sanctuary that is no longer accessible.